Hi, and welcome to Master of Horror, where I give you the scariest paranormal stories that I've ever come by. Now, in today's scary paranormal stories, we are talking about the paranormal story about the Tallman Bunkbeds. Now, uh, the Tallman Bunkbeds or Tommen Bunkbeds is a true couple in Wisconsin that had hauntings of the paranormal.
So sick of you mouth
And
breathers telling me.
what is that? What did you do? You just pause it. Okay. So basically, um, the Tallman Bunk Beds, it's paranormal activity. And of course, I'm here with my daughter Glennis, and she's also a paranormal activist. She doesn't like it as much as I do. Um, and I know it's kind of, I'm trying to get her to like the paranormal and to like to say scary stories. But she likes it, but again, she doesn't talk too much about it. So you won't hear too much. But she will here and there say a couple of things. But I'm the one mainly talking, letting you know. She's really good at handling all the other things. The technician, the equipment, so she does all that. It's funny because it looks, the way you're nodding, it makes it look like you went to school for like technician work.
You know me.
So, damn, that was deep, bro. That was a deep voice.
That's my regular voice.
You know, that voice was so deep. You gotta, can you, like, it's just, it was scary. Now, what we have here is a paranormal story, true story about the Tallman Bunk Beds that happened in Wisconsin in 1987. Now, of course, I gotta write it down so I remember what I'm talking about, because my next live I might accidentally go over the Tallman Bunk Beds again, and I never want to do the same story. So, the Tallman Bunk Beds, or Tallman Bunk Beds. The Tallman Bunk Beds, paranormal, true story. Um, how y'all doing out there? Great talking to you, seeing you on here. Today we're going over the Tallman Paranormal Bunk Beds. The Tommen family from Wisconsin. They were haunted. There was hauntings going on, and it was really scary. Make a long story short, it is one of the most paranormal, true documentations ever documented. Was from the Tommen Bunk Beds. So we're gonna listen to it. And if y'all can listen to it, this is me, my voice. I don't do AI. If y'all subscribe to my channel, I'm going to start posting more true paranormal stories. The scariest stories that I've ever come by. These paranormal stories are the scariest, true stories that I've ever come by. And there's a lot of paranormal stories out there, but I'm not going to say them because they're not scary. And I only say the most terrifying, scariest stories out there. So here we go. The Tallman Bunk Beds. Play it.
Tallman Bunk Beds. In Wisconsin, in early February of 1987, Alan and Debbie Tallman purchased bunk beds at a secondhand shop. They stored them in their basement. 3 months later, in May of 1987, they moved the bunk beds upstairs to their kids' bedroom. This marked 9 months of paranormal and terrifying experiences for the family that has ever been recorded. Strange occurrences begin to happen nightly. The first night, the bunk beds were upstairs. Their oldest son went into his parents' room claiming that his radio clock was playing music by itself and turning through different stations on its own. Alan, the father, got upset thinking that his oldest son was being immature and just playing around, and took the radio away from him and warned him to behave. Another night, as their kids were...
So, Betty, Tommen, and her husband, uh, they bought some bunk beds at a secondhand thrift store. So they went to a thrift store, bought some bunk beds. Next thing you know, they take them home. They put the bunk beds inside of their basement and they leave them there for 3 months. Nothing happens. Family's happy. Everybody's cool. As soon as they bring the bunk beds upstairs in 1987 of May, they bring the bunk beds upstairs. Their son sleeps on the bunk bed. As soon as they do that, the next thing you know, paranormal activity. The son then says, my clock is going off. So here's his electric clock. And what happens to his clock? Static and electricity is coming out of his clock. So basically, so that's the first occurrence. Now, right now we're going over the Tallman Bunkbeds. Do y'all believe in ghosts? Let me know. Do y'all believe in the paranormal? Let me know. Have y'all ever heard about the Tallman Bunkbeds? Yes or no? If you heard about the Tommen Bunkbeds, let me know. It's a true paranormal story that happened in 1987 in Wisconsin. Hit it.
Oh.
They were awoken by something or someone crawling on the ground, portraying a dog, and growling at them. Even though it was dark in their room, they could still see the outline of a dark shadow crawling in and out from underneath their bunk beds. Also, their daughter would explain that there was a fire in her room. When Alan and Debbie went to investigate, they found nothing. About a week later, one quiet night, Alan and Debbie heard their daughter screaming. When they came to see what was wrong, she claimed there was a witch with red eyes behind her bedroom door. Later that week, Alan Tallman came home from working night shift around 2 in the morning. After pulling in the driveway and getting out of his car, he began to hear howling in the wind. The wind began to pick up and the howling got louder. He then heard a voice say, "Come here," from around the side of the house. He walked over to the side of the house and there was nothing there. When he came back around the corner to the front of the garage, to his shock and to his horror, the garage was on fire with flames reaching past the rooftop. He quickly went into his house to retrieve a fire extinguisher, and when he came back outside, there was no fire, nor any indication of one. He walked inside his house and closed the front door in disbelief. As he reached down to pick up his lunch kit, it was thrown across the living room by an unknown entity. There was a night where Mr. Tallman had to go to work and asked his brother Todd to stay the night with his family to protect them from whatever was haunting their house. That night, around 2 in the morning, Todd was...
Okay. So, we are investigating the Tallman Bunkbeds, paranormal occurrences that happened to a family called the Tommen family. Okay? In 1987, in Wisconsin, the Tommens purchased bunk beds. These bunk beds were haunted. Okay? They had the bunk beds in the basement for 3 months. Nothing happened. But after 3 months, they moved these bunk beds upstairs or into the main floor, and paranormal things started happening. Okay, all the way to the point to where the father came home one day and he actually saw his garage on fire. The fire was past the rooftop. It was just crazy. If you were there, you totally would freak out. He went inside to get a fire extinguisher. Next thing you know, when he comes back outside, no fire. This guy was just imagining it probably, but again, he does not want to leave his family alone. So what does he do? He asks his brother to watch his kids while he goes to work, because the house is so haunted. Okay, so the house is so haunted. So Now he goes to work and he leaves his brother with the kids, and the brother decides to sleep in the room on the floor. The kids are like, "Thank you so much, Uncle Bob. Everything's great." He's protecting them now. Husband goes to work, 2 o'clock in the morning. What do you think happens? One of the scariest things happens in all of history. We will never know what ghost, demon, paranormal entity did this to this guy. Wait.
On the floor of the kid's bedroom when he was awoken by a noise he heard coming from the closet. Fog began to slowly appear out of nowhere. He then sat up and stared at the closet door as it began to slowly open. What happened next will forever be a secret that no one knows. A bright light filled the room, and Todd witnessed something truly terrifying. He screamed and sat up, petrified, with no emotion on his face. We will never know what he saw, and to this day he doesn't want to tell anyone. He never said exactly what he saw at that moment. But Debbie entered the room and began to grab her children. She asked Todd what did he see, but he did not answer her. He slowly walked out of the room like a zombie with no facial expressions at all. After about a minute, he then snapped out of it and began to get the rest of the kids out of that house. And they left the house that night. The family then immediately...
So, the brother's on the floor, sitting down, and the next thing you know, I'll buy him water. His voice is rough.
Oh my god. Well.
My voice or the voice on the thing? Because I told myself I wouldn't get agitated. So I'm just wondering, is it my voice that's rough, or is it the voice on the...
I'm pretty sure you've seen the video. It's the video, right?
Yeah, the video, right? Well, they're not going to answer that. The thing...
Oh, wait, you've seen the video.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a scary, rough voice. Because I could have a little kid's voice, like a little light, or like a little light, a very light pitched high voice, like a squeaky voice, but it's supposed to be a deeper, older, scary voice. So that's why it's like that. But you know what? I'm going to change that on my scary stories. Thank you. Please subscribe. I have scary stories, and on my scary stories, they sound like this. This is my scary stories you're listening to. True paranormal scary stories, the scariest that you'll ever come by. Ever come by. I do not say scary stories that are just scary. I say scary stories that'll petrify you. The true ones. And right now, we're going over the Tallman Bunkbeds. The most scariest paranormal story that I could think of. So, the husband, the dad leaves to work, and he calls his brother and says, "Can you stay with my family? Because there's scary things going on." So basically, the brother's on the floor, and what do y'all think happens? The brother's on the floor, and the next thing you know, so the brother is on the floor, and the next thing you know, he's watching the guy's family. The closet door opens, and now this fog fills the room. It fills the room, and next thing you know, he's on the floor scared, and the closet door opens, and he sees something. What do y'all think he saw? I want to know right now in the comments. What do y'all think this guy saw that was on the floor? What do you think y'all saw? What do you think he saw? The guy on the floor. Because you got to remember, he's watching these kids. Everything's going fine. He's watching his brother's family. The closet door opens, and that's a good one. He probably. But but the thing is that he saw something and it shocked him to the core. He no longer was able to do anything. He was in shock. This guy was in shock. He literally saw something coming out of the closet. Was it a ghost? Was it a demon? Was it a woman in a white dress, like a ghost, a paranormal ghost? What was it? And so whatever it was came out of the closet, and he was in shock. Play it.
He had the bunk beds crushed by a bulldozer, and not long after that, they moved out of their house, hoping that the ghost or entity would never follow them ever again. It was an old vintage-looking hotel that rested off the highway on a quiet road. There were 2 cars in the parking lot, so there were definitely not a lot of guests. The lady at the front desk was very robotic with her words. The wallpapers were all outdated and very old-looking. It didn't matter because I wasn't staying there for the luxury, just for the night, because I was extremely sleepy. It was really late when I checked in, around 2 in the morning or so. When I got in the room, all I did was take out my toothbrush and brush my teeth before jumping into the hotel bed. I turned off the lamp next to the bed, tried to go to sleep, not looking forward to the long day of driving I had ahead of me. Right when I was about to fall asleep, there was a knock at the door. I looked at the bedside clock to see what time it was. It was exactly 3 in the morning. I went to the door and looked through the peephole. Apparently, the peephole didn't work because I couldn't see out into the hallway. It was pitch black. I looked down at the crack under the door, but didn't see any outlines of feet blocking the light. So I opened the door just a little bit to peek into the hallway. I didn't see anyone standing in front of the door. I opened it fully and then peeked down both sides of the hallway. It was clear, so I shut the door and locked it with the bolt this time. I went to lay back down in the bed, but then it happened again, banging on the door. This time I jumped out of the bed, ran to the door, and checked the peephole again. Shockingly, all I saw was the empty hallway outside, but it hit me this time. I could actually see through the peephole. I unbolted the door and opened it. No one was there. I looked down both sides of the hallway again. There was no one. I could feel as if something was watching me. The hairs on my arms were standing straight up. This was where I drew the line. I grabbed the key to the room and went to the lady at the front desk. I told her someone kept knocking on my hotel door. I asked her to check the cameras to see who it could be. She replied they didn't have cameras in the hallways. The reaction also wasn't what I was hoping for. She seemed very unconcerned with what I told her. She said in a calm voice, there was only one other guest in the whole building. Then she just stared blankly at me. I could tell she wouldn't be of any help with this problem. So I left her and went back to my room. I locked the door with the bolt again. This time, I put on my headphones and put on one of those 5-hour sleep relaxation videos on YouTube. This would not only help me get to sleep, but block out any noise that I would hear coming from outside the room. It worked for a while. Eventually, I flipped from my side to my back and looked around the room. Then I froze with fear. I was staring at the corner and sat up. It looked like a giant humanoid figure, about 10 foot tall, standing right in the corner with its head to the ceiling. It was all pitch black. I crawled to the edge of the bed and looked closer, and I practically shit myself. I saw what I was sure was a long arm at the side moving. I dove to turn on the lamp, and the corner was empty. I didn't stick around that time. I bagged up my few things in a matter of seconds and left the room. I gave the key to the woman and said I'm checking out early. She didn't even say a word as I stormed out the front door of the hotel. I then continued driving until I found another hotel where I fell fast asleep with no soup.
So this scary story is a really good one. It's about the haunted motel. This man goes to the motel. Next thing you know, something knocks on the door. He opens the door and no one's there. It happens a couple of times until, to tell you the truth, he had to leave. He left. So I want to know, does anybody on here believe in the paranormal? Yes or no? So let's take a poll. Whoever is listening right now, just say yes or no. Do y'all believe in the paranormal? Do y'all believe in ghosts or demons? I would like for you to let me know. Yeah, yeah. It's always smarter to leave. But if you want to fight it. That's up to you. But I would have left a long time ago. And well, I mean, it, wow. So, if you believe in paranormal, then just say yes. So nobody on here, yeah. So nobody on here really, nobody on here really knows. I somewhat believe in ghosts, but not demons. That's a first. That's a first. And I really, wow, I give you respect for saying that. Because, in a sense, you're saying that we have the ability to move on, to live. We have a soul that goes on as a ghost, but that there's no demons that are picking on us or haunting us. So I really like that. I really like your belief there. I, on the other hand, I believe in both. But at the same time, if you go to the Bible, there's pretty much definitely D's. But again, that has to do with religion. But the way I was brought up, I know that there's no ghost that could be that evil. There's some ghosts. People can be bad, like the paranormal, right? But there's some that are just so evil you would think it would have to be a demon. You literally would think it has to be a demon doing this. Because it feels like the family of the past is watching you. Yeah. Like, as we're saying these stories, as you're typing, as we're here, if you believe in ghosts or demons, that all that means is that you believe they're watching you, and that there's thousands of them. There's hundreds of thousands of them, and they're watching as we speak right now. So, and it could be scary. It's the paranormal realm, or it could be not scary. But to know that they're ghosts kind of makes you not as afraid, right? So, the last story I'm playing on here happened in Rosenberg, Texas. It happened to a guy named Johnny. He was the maintenance man, and he worked fixing apartments in Rosenberg, Texas. What you're about to hear is another true paranormal story that comes only to you from Master of War. So here we go.
In the mid-1990s, we had the haunted apartment high. I used to live in a townhouse in Rosenberg, Texas in the mid-1990s. We had an older man named Johnny, who was the maintenance man, and he had a friend named Ted that would help him do maintenance work for the townhouses. So when people would move out, Johnny and Ted would have to clean up the apartment, fix it up, and get it ready for new occupants. Johnny would tell me that people would leave the most outrageous things behind. He claims that most people never even cleaned up the place when they left, leaving most of their valuables behind. Well, one day, Johnny the maintenance man told me that something horrible happened to him the night before when he spent the night in one of the apartments that he was cleaning out. He claims that he was alone in the apartment around 1 o'clock in the morning, and instead of driving back home, he decided to spend the night since there was so much work to be done. Ted, his friend that usually helps him, didn't come that night, so Johnny was alone. The electricity was off, but Johnny had his flashlight, and he said that he had some candles with him, and he made a small sleeping area on the carpet floor and laid down to sleep to try to get some rest before he had to wake up in a few hours to start work again. He claims that in the middle of the night, he was awoken by someone calling his name in the room. No one was in the room at the time. He thought it was his imagination and went back to sleep. He then woke up and again, about an hour later, feeling sharp pain coming from his feet. When he moved the blanket from his feet, he saw that he had red marks on his feet as if someone was scratching his feet. He said it was really painful, and he got up and walked around the room. He then heard a noise coming from the closet. That's when he opened the closet door, and to his surprise, there was a Ouija board on the top shelf. Whoever lived there cleaned out the whole apartment, but left the Ouija board behind. He got chills all over his body when he saw it, and quickly threw the board in the trash outside the apartment. He went back to sleep, and then was awoken a third time, feeling pain coming from his feet, as if something was punching the bottom of his feet. He jumped up and quickly opened the closet door to see if the board was still there. And to his surprise, even after throwing the Ouija board away, the board was in the same original spot it was in, on the closet shelf. He got his keys as fast as he could, claiming that it felt as if he was being watched the whole time. His flashlight didn't work anymore for some reason, and he couldn't find his candles. He had to find his way in the dark out of the apartment. He claims while he was going down the stairs in the dark, he heard something right behind him, following him down the stairs. While he was driving away, he said he saw a cloaked black figure looking out the bedroom window that he was sleeping in. He said he never went back to that apartment, and he's always stayed away from Ouija boards. The Haunted Needville House. In 2003, me and my wife got married and lived with my parents in Needville, Texas. We lived in a haunted house on Line Street. Many paranormal things in that house happened. For example, one day when my dad was alone washing dishes, he claims that my wife was standing in the hallway staring at him for about 5 minutes. When he looked up and acknowledged her and asked her if everything was okay, she just turned around and walked away.
So, did y'all hear the story about the? Did y'all hear the story about the haunted apartment? That one was really scary. The haunted apartment, pretty scary. And that has to do again with the maintenance man. He said they left a Ouija board behind. Anybody on here ever play with the Ouija board? No? Yeah, it probably did. Probably needed a maid. But on here again. So to basically end it off, so I'll be trying to do live every day covering different paranormal stories. Today we covered the Tallman Bunkbeds, and we also covered the haunted apartment. So the Tommen Bunkbeds happened in Wisconsin. The haunted apartment happened in Rosenberg, Texas. Thank you for tuning in. I want to thank everybody. This is Master of Horror. Please subscribe. This is where I give you the most scariest paranormal stories that you will ever hear in your entire life. When I post scary stories, they're not scary. They're petrifying. And they're the ones that I find that are extremely, seriously scary. So, thank you for tuning in. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care, and we'll see you later. Again, Master of Horror. And don't forget to leave the nightlight on. Thank you for subscribing, bro. It says highlights on it. That's fine.